The screen goes dark, then voices chanting in Persian echoing through city streets. Flames flicker, tear gas clouds rise, and then silence. Because on January 8, 2026, Iran pulled the switch. A near-total internet blackout. Phones dead, the world locked out. What began on December 28, 2025, as merchants closing shops over a currency collapse has become something far larger. Protests in all 31 provinces, with the US-based human rights activist news agency verifying 3,090 deaths as of January 17th, including 2,885 protesters, though estimates range from 2,000 to as high as 30,000, with no way to verify under current conditions. Iran's government disputes all casualty figures. This is the story of how Iran arrived at this breaking point, what's happening behind the blackout, how the world is responding, and what realistic paths forward exist. If you want documentary journalism that sticks to verified facts and shows you the sources, hit like, share, and subscribe. This channel covers history straight through to the present, with receipts. To understand Iran's current crisis, you need one fundamental truth. Iran is not a typical democracy. Yes, there are elections, a president, a parliament. But ultimate authority sits above them in the office of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and in security institutions that enforce the system's red lines. Iran's current president, Masoud Pezeshkian, is widely described in analyses as having limited room to maneuver, especially when the security forces define unrest as existential. When protests erupt, the question isn't simply, what will the government do? It's, which parts of the state are willing to compromise, and which parts will use force? The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, and the Basij militia, not the regular military, control internal security. They answer to Khamenei, not Pezeshkian. And that matters because in this crisis, Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei directly ordered live fire on protesters, according to multiple reports. Iran's protests didn't emerge from nowhere. The pressure built for years. First, economic collapse. On December 28, 2025, Iran's Rial plunged to 1.44 million per dollar, before recovering slightly to around 1.38 million. 1 year earlier, in January 2025, it traded around 700,000 to the dollar. The currency lost roughly half its value in 2025 alone. Official inflation reached 52.6% by late December, with food prices up 72% year over year. Monthly wages average barely $100, far below what families need to survive. Second, sanctions snapback. In September 2025, the United Nations reimposed nuclear-related sanctions on Iran through the snapback mechanism. This wasn't abstract policy. It meant frozen Iranian assets abroad, halted arms transactions, penalties on ballistic missile programs, collapsed trade insurance, and shipping companies refusing Iranian ports. Third, the June 2025 war. From June 13th to 24th, 2025, Iran and Israel fought a 12-day war. Israel launched surprise strikes on Iranian military and nuclear facilities on June 13th. On June 22nd, the United States conducted strikes on 3 Iranian nuclear sites in Operation Midnight Hammer. Iran retaliated by firing 14 missiles at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, targeting U.S. forces. A ceasefire took effect on June 24, 2025. The war damaged infrastructure, drained resources, and deepened Iran's isolation, all while the economy was already failing. On December 28, 2025, merchants in Tehran's Grand Bazaar closed their shops to protest the unprecedented collapse of the Rial and sharp increases in currency and gold prices. The Grand Bazaar isn't just a market. It's the economic and political heartbeat of Iran, historically crucial in the 1979 revolution. Footage verified by independent sources showed crowds at malls near Tehran's Grand Bazaar chanting "Freedom" or "Azadi." Protests spread rapidly to other cities. Merchants at the Aladdin Shopping Center, Sharsu Mall, and commercial centers across Tehran. By day 2, protests had reached all 31 provinces. What began as economic grievance escalated into political demands. Protesters chanted "Death to the dictator," referring to Khamenei, and "No Gaza, no Lebanon, my life for Iran," directly rejecting the regime's regional priorities. The government's response. On January 3rd, Supreme Leader Khamenei responded by saying, "We will not yield to the enemy," and stating that rioters must be put in their place. Security forces fired tear gas, used water cannons, and deployed shotguns loaded with metal pellets. Reports emerged of live ammunition fired at protesters. As protests intensified, Iran made a calculated decision. On January 8, 2026, at approximately 8:30 p.m. local time, Iranian authorities imposed a near-total internet shutdown. NetBlock's monitoring organization confirmed Iran was now in the midst of a nationwide internet blackout. Cybersecurity experts reported that Iran's national information network was fully disconnected, even internally within Iran. Not just internet. Phone service was also cut, with landlines and mobile phones unable to connect. By the next morning, NetBlocks confirmed 99% of Iran was offline. Why it matters. Internet blackouts aren't new for Iran, but this one is among the most severe in history. The blackout serves multiple purposes. It prevents coordination among protesters, blocks videos and images from reaching the outside world, makes independent verification of casualties impossible, and covers large-scale crackdowns. According to FilterWatch, activists fear Iran is moving toward a permanent national internet system, where only vetted individuals get filtered, censored access. This is where the story becomes extremely difficult to verify. The US-based human rights activist news agency, or HRANA, verified 3,090 deaths as of January 17, 2026, including 2,885 protesters and 147 security personnel. Norway-based Iran Human Rights, or IHR, reported 3,428 protester deaths as of January 14th. Some estimates range as high as 12,000 to 30,000, though these cannot be independently verified. Iranian government officials have off the record claimed the death toll to be between 2,000 to 3,000, including both protesters and security forces. The truth, no one knows the exact number. The internet blackout makes verification impossible. Hospital access is restricted. Families are threatened. What we can say with confidence, this is among the deadliest protest crackdowns in modern Iranian history. Over 22,000 arrests have been documented. Security forces used live ammunition. Amnesty International accused authorities of raiding hospitals to detain wounded protesters. Iran's prosecutor general declared that detainees would face charges as mohareb, waging war against God, which carries the death penalty under Iranian law. The head of Iran's judiciary visited detention facilities and emphasized the need for swift trials and punishment. At least 52 executions were carried out between January 5th and 14th, according to rights groups. Iran's internal crisis doesn't exist in isolation because Iran's nuclear program sits at the center of international pressure. On May 31st, 2025, the IAEA reported that Iran had enough uranium enriched to 60% purity for 9 nuclear weapons. For context, the 2015 nuclear deal, or JCPOA, limited enrichment to 3.67%. 60% enrichment is a short technical step from weapons-grade 90%. On June 22, 2025, U.S. forces struck 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fordow, and Isfahan. Early U.S. intelligence assessments suggested the strikes set Iran's program back 1 to 2 years, though assessments vary. Iran's response. Following the ceasefire, Iranian officials signaled Iran might cease complying with a non-proliferation treaty. The nuclear issue remains unresolved, and it shapes why sanctions return, why diplomacy collapses, and why outside powers watch Iran's internal crisis so closely. President Donald Trump has taken an aggressive stance. Trump warned Iran that if they execute protesters, the United States would take very strong action. Trump posted on social media, "Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions." Trump threatened military intervention but has not specified what form it would take. The EU formally reimposed nuclear-related sanctions in September 2025, following the UN snapback mechanism. European officials have called for restraint but taken limited concrete action beyond sanctions. Reuters reported dozens of ships anchoring outside Iranian ports amid heightened fears. China remains a major purchaser of Iranian oil, providing economic lifeline despite sanctions. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called for preventing further casualties and upholding rights to peaceful assembly. However, the Security Council remains divided, with Russia and China blocking stronger measures. No one can responsibly predict Iran's future with certainty, but based on historical patterns and current reporting, 3 plausible paths emerge. Scenario 1, brutal suppression plus controlled reopening. The state crushes protests through mass arrests, executions, and fear. Internet is partially restored with heavy censorship. Economic stabilization attempts without political reform. Risk. Unrest returns if economic pressure continues. Regime legitimacy further eroded. Scenario 2. Negotiation pathway. Iran signals willingness to engage on nuclear issues to relieve sanctions. Limited political concessions or reforms to reduce tension. External mediation from Qatar, Oman, or other intermediaries. Risk. Hardliners sabotage talks. External events, Israeli strikes, US pressure, derail process. Scenario 3, escalation plus regional conflict. If external actors perceive Iran as weakened, regional confrontation intensifies. Renewed Israeli or US strikes on nuclear sites. Proxy conflicts in Iraq, Syria, Yemen expand. Risk, spiraling violence, humanitarian catastrophe. Economic collapse accelerates. Iran's crisis isn't one event. It's a pressure system built over decades. Sanctions layered upon sanctions, revolutions followed by repressions, promises of reform crushed by security forces, and a population pushed to the breaking point. Next episode, we go deeper into Iran's modern history, from 1979 to the nuclear era, tracing how internal legitimacy crises, regional conflicts, and international sanctions collided into the moment we're witnessing now. If you want documentaries that connect history to the present with real sourcing, hit like, share, and subscribe. The screens are dark in Tehran tonight, but the story isn't over. The pressure is still building.